Good morning, everyone. Let me express the deepest gratitude to the organizers of this event, also on behalf of my co-author, Massimo Vidale. Allow us a few words about the title of this presentation. We have decided to include the words goods and people because we try to go behind a mere description of the stylistic features of these seals, attempting instead to project them into an anthropological dimension by also discussing who used and made them. Today, we will not provide a detailed description of all the features defining Indus's production, nor will we present all seals that can be classified as Indus-related or Indus-hybrid found outside the Greater Indus Valley. Rather, we will discuss some key arguments that have emerged from their study and how they have improved our general understanding of the social-economic organization of the Indus civilization. Before entering into the very subject of this presentation, in addition to our institution, we would like to thank some colleagues who have collaborated with us on specific topics or whose research has inspired us, namely Mark Neuer, Gianni Marchesi, Stefan Larsen, Greg Jamieson, and François Dessay. Over the past 20 years, I studied the seal-based administrative technologies and procedures of the Indus civilization. In particular, I studied the clay sealings found at several Indus sites in Gujarat, including Lothal and Dholavira, but also smaller sites like Nagwada, Shikarpur, and Bagashra. Large clusters of clay sealings are quite a fairly common discovery at Bronze Age sites throughout Western and Central Asia. The detailed studies of the seal containers, the frequent discovery of the seals used to stamp them, and the elemental analysis of the clays used for sealings all concord in demonstrating that the seal-based administrative system was not used to ensure the integrity of shipped packages, but to manage and record access to goods stored in warehouses under the responsibility of specific officers. There is indirect evidence of a similar use of seals in the Indus civilization as well. Ascoparpola has noted, in fact, that at least 2 of the seals found at Lothal were used locally to stamp clay sealings. Moreover, I have documented several clay sealings that were used to close doors. These pieces of evidence most likely indicate that seals and sealings were primarily used also in the Indus civilization for the local management of warehouses, rather than for securing the shipment of commodities. The study of clay sealings has also shed light on the use of seals in the Indus civilization and on the nature of the information they conveyed. Most of the clay sealings found at Indus sites, in fact, show the inscription carefully stamped and well readable. On the other hand, the main iconography is often covered by their impressions, obliterated by fingerprints, or was simply not impressed. The inscription appears to have therefore played a role primarily in the administrative management of room and goods, most likely to identify the seal user univocally. The iconography was likely of secondary importance on those occasions, but it may have provided information about the social, economic, and bureaucratic role of the seal users through direct visual identification. Let's now try to see who used these seals and what were their roles in the socio-economic and bureaucratic organization of the Indus civilization. We all know that the iconographies carved on the standard Indus seals consist mainly of standing male animals, real or mythological, and rare anthropomorphic figures or representation of rituals. The frequency of these iconographies varied slightly from site to site. However, the so-called unicorn is always and by far the most represented creature. The statistical distribution always seems odd to me, so I try to see if I was able to find some reason explaining it. For this reason, I compared the main features of the standard Indus seals with those of cylinder seals used in the Near East during the same period, the significance and function of which are much better known. I report here 2 short quotes describing who used cylinder seals and what rules were at the basis for their production. There were no restrictions regarding the ownership of a seal. Anyone who could afford a seal could own one or even more than one. Moreover, the choice of design and materials reflects the personal preference of the owner. Applying modern commodity branding theory to this dataset, cylinder seals appear to have been designed to maximize personalization. On a larger scale, the strategy led to a spontaneous multiplication of brands, including the use of many different raw materials and the development of many different iconographies and carving styles. You can see what I mean by looking at this collection of cylinder seals broadly dating from the same time frame as the Indus Civilization. Many different raw materials, many different contrasting colors, many different iconographies, many different characters. Of course, imitation processes and manufacturing specialization eventually led to the development of trends and regional traditions. However, the conceptual foundation underlying the production of cylinder seals didn't change over time. Let's compare them now with the Indus seals, the greatest majority of which were carved from steatite, then heated to make them whitish and harder. There were also some seals in terracotta and just a few exceptional specimens in copper, silver, and ivory. We have already seen that almost 80% of Indus standard seal depict the Harappan unicorn, while the rest show different animals but all represented according to the same iconographic syntax. If you apply the theory of modern marketing to these patterns, cylinder seals, with their many subjects, stylistic variation, and different raw materials, can be described by a market structure comparable to present-day competition. In a competitive system, a large number of brands produce commodities that are functionally comparable but as differentiated as possible. Typical examples of this branding model are modern business cards. Applying the same approach, Indus seals, with their limited number of relatively standardized icons and the almost exclusive use of high-fi steatite, can be described by a market structure called oligopoly, or rather an unbalanced form of oligopoly. Unbalanced oligopoly describes, in fact, a system based on a limited number of components, one of which, in our case the unicorn, has the absolute majority. Let's see now how these models can contribute to our understanding of the Indus seals. One of the founding features of an unbalanced oligopoly is that, unless there are shared rules and procedures protecting the minority components, the system quickly and suddenly collapses into a monopoly or a cartel. However, as far as we can tell, the iconographic system and the stylistic and morphological features that characterize the Indus seals remain relatively stable for almost 1,000 years. In summary, the production and use of Indus seals appear to have been regulated by a set of prescriptions that had to be strictly observed to produce seals legally authorized to identify specific administrative roles within a highly structured social-economic system. We could therefore assume the existence of several officially established executive roles that did not compete with each other, but rather cooperated within the same social-economic structure. In my opinion, this is the only possible explanation for the persistence of a limited set of icons and material expressions spread with minor variation throughout the greater Indus Valley and even beyond for almost 1 millennium in an evident condition of highly unbalanced oligopoly. This state would have not been possible if the animals had represented, for example, economically competing clans or individuals. So, while in Western Asia, cylinder seals were owned by single individuals to represent first their private identity and only secondarily their socioeconomic or political status, in the Indus Valley, seal represented the public role or status of officials entrusted to use that particular seal within a highly structured administrative system. The next question is obvious. What can we say about the socioeconomic and administrative roles represented on the Indus seal? To try and answer this question, we will examine the Indus-related seals found outside the greater Indus Valley. Several scholars have studied these seals since the very beginning of research into the Indus Civilization. More recently, a number of seminal papers interpreting these seals from different perspectives have contributed to shedding new lights on the general functioning and significance of Indus seals. My co-author Massimo Vidale proposed that the Indian bison or short-horned bull with the head lower as if charging or grazing was the brand of the Indus merchants involved in external trade. Indeed, as Elizabeth Durin-Caspers had already pointed out, this icon occurs with an exceptionally high frequency on the Indus-related seals found in all regions linked with Indus external trade. Along the same line, in a later paper, Massimo and I proposed that the unicorn, being the most common seal icon in all Indus sites, may have represented the most numerous bureaucrats in a developed early urban context, like small-scale accountants who mastered recording, taxation, and writing. A paper by Stephen Lawson has provided instead critical information not only on the use of Indus-related seals found outside the Indus Valley, but also on their production. Through a quantitative analysis of the morphological features of the so-called Gulf-type seals, Lawson defined, in fact, 4 major seal types with a strong regional coherence. This evidence led me to propose that these seals were carved locally by Indus or Indus-trained seal makers. Other studies have also considered the inscription in Indus signs engraved on these seals. According to Ascoparpola, based on the statistical analysis of sign frequency and associations, the inscription on Gulf-type seals from the Indus Valley, except one, and Iran, and one from Mesopotamia, represented the same language encoded on the standard Indus seals. The inscription on the other Gulf seals from Mesopotamia and Bahrain encoded instead a different language or languages, which based on the local onomastic has been proposed to be Amorite. According to Massimo Vidale, the need to adapt the Indus script to the local onomastics is also reflected in the high occurrence of the Indus man and twin signs in such non-Indus inscriptions. These seals may have been used to indicate patronymics, a characteristic of the inscription on cylinder seals. If this hypothesis is confirmed, we could say that patronymics were not a component of the personal identification system used on Indus seals. 3 exceptional Indus-related seals with cuneiform inscriptions provide relevant insights into this matter. Oddly for this period, in 2 of them, the cuneiform inscription was engraved in horizontal lines, as in the Indus seals, rather than in vertical columns, as it was customary for cuneiform writing. Moreover, while the Indus animals were carved respecting the standard proportion of the Indus iconographic tradition, several cuneiform signs show minor errors. This may indicate that they were made by Indus seal carvers, but considering the use of chloride, most likely in Mesopotamia. Concerning the inscriptions, in a translation by Gianni Marchesi, they reported 2 rare Sumerian names on the stamp seal at the top, a name that is neither Sumerian nor Akkadian, probably the local phonetic adaptation of an Harappan name on the stamp seal in the center, 2 Akkadian names for the seal owner and his father, and a name that is again neither Sumerian nor Akkadian for the grandfather on the cylinder seals at the bottom. A single name, Mashiri or Zashiri, in the transcription by François Dessay, is engraved in linear Elamite sign on a round stamp seal from western Iran. 2 other Indus-derived names, Nanasa and Samara, are mentioned in a cuneiform tablet from the Ur-III period. They were royal slaves employed as shepherds of wild goats. We submitted this short list to several experts in various ancient languages. Although most agree that these names could have originated from the same linguistic tradition, the responses varied and were inconclusive. In fact, apart from the endless examples of foreign names deliberately adapted to the local onomastics, we must also consider the difficulty of transcribing or transliterating a personal name using a different language and writing system. To take just one example, the name of the Mauryan emperor Chandragupta was transcribed as Sandrokotos in Greek. To continue talking about people and not just objects, most of the Indus-related seals found in Western and Central Asia seems to have been made locally, not in the Indus. but often using Indus seal making techniques. This Indus seal from Salut in interior Oman, although made from a local chloride, was carved using the same technique and toolkit used in the Indus. This seems also to be the case of a cylinder seal in fire steatite found at Susa, in western Iran, which depicts an inscription in Indus signs and a short-horned bull with an oddly elongated body. It seems the result of a cylinder seal carved by a seal maker trained to make stamp seals. The cylinder seal from Konar Sandal south side in the Jiroft province of southeastern Iran showed a linear translation in local style of a typical Indus iconography of multi-headed animals or animal heads arranged in a wheel. It was carved in a local marble, but the coherent adaptation of a complex Indus iconography to a different seal type suggests that iconography was designed by an individual with an intimate understanding of the original Indus motif. The cylinder seal from Jalalabad in the Isfahan province of Iran testifies to a different situation. While the Susa seals combine features of the Indus seal production on a cylinder seal, the Jalalabad seal showed an impressive cult scene of a local deity combined with Indus script. This seems to be the case also for two three-sided prismatic seals found in eastern Arabia, which were carved in a unique shape from local chlorides and show the Indian bison and Indus signs together with local iconographies. A number of cylindrical seals from Mesopotamia and Central Asia, made from steatite, re-elaborated and combined typical Indus iconographies and local motifs carved in Indus style to create complex narrative scenes. We argued that these seals were also made by Indus seal makers. In conclusion, the first aim of this presentation was to deconstruct the Indus seals, trying to infer insights into the meaning of their components and their uses by comparing them with Mesopotamian cylinder seals and analyzing Indus-inspired seals found outside the Greater Indus Valley. We proposed that the animals on the Indus seals represented executive roles related to the different socio-economic and administrative activities, like external trade for the Indian bison or the basic economic management and taxation of trade commodities for the unicorn. Inscription in Indus signs communicated a form of univocal personal identification, apparently based on comparison with Indus-related seals with inscription and cuneiform in linear Elamite, a single name with no indication of patronymics. Interestingly, very few standard Indus seals have been found outside the Indus Valley. Unfortunately, they have mostly been found in context with critical chronological issues, severely limiting our possibility to reconstruct any possible evolutionary trends in the administrative organization of the Indus external trade. We have also tried to infer information about the manufacturers of these Indus-inspired seals. Combining information on their shapes, iconographies, inscription, raw materials, and carving techniques, we believe that most of them were made locally by Indus-trained seal makers, while only a minority was made by local craftspeople copying original Indus models. Finally, we saw how the sudden and almost simultaneous appearance in all regions linked with the Indus external trade of a new round seal type exclusively bearing the Indus short-horned bull, with or without inscription, may have resulted from a coordinated effort to organize Indus external trade on a centralized level. Thank you very much for your kind attention, and please send us your comments through email. Thank you very much.